Welcome trainers, Watts here. This video is going to be my sort of initial, more unfiltered thoughts on Lucio. Make sure to subscribe because I am going to be doing a much more in-depth video like my normal ones after I edit and create it, because I want to search for every specific thing about Lucio, but this is new news, so I want to cover it now. But I definitely did not want to rush that video, so I wanted to spend extra care on it, so make sure to subscribe to see that whenever it comes out. As of right now, my initial thoughts on Lucio. Okay, so he's drastically different, right? The initial thing that obviously stands out is how overpowered Wallride is now, right? It's impossible to deny that Wallride is overpowered now. It was already arguably overpowered. Now it's just flat out overpowered. It's completely too strong. But the other aspects of Lucio were nerfed. So his range is extremely decreased. A 10-meter reduction on his ultimate, and the 20 meters off on his aura ranges, which is huge. That is really different. So their planning was to compensate for that range reduction by giving him extra speed to get around to his teammates. But here's the problem. Lucio heals too slowly, and now he heals much faster, but only with amp, not without amp. They didn't buff healing without amp. So amp is a spell that you basically just want to use whenever it's up, because it's so powerful. So obviously you do want to save it sometimes, but it's so good in every situation that's a spell that's constantly going to be used whenever it's up, but it has a high cooldown. So basically you're not going to really be able to like transition across your team, like healing some people then going over healing other people like Mercy can. You can't really do that because you can only use amp once, and then if you transition, your healing is barely anything. So if they're getting bursted, they're still just gonna die. Or if they're taking, any sort of damage, they're gonna take more than you're healing for. So it promotes this playstyle that is hyper aggressive because he was already very nimble and very easy to avoid things with, and now he's much easier to avoid things with. He's actually so ridiculous to try to fight because he's so hard to hit now. Before you would have to be one of the best wall riding Lucios to be able to abuse it, but now a lot of people will be able to. So this hyper aggressive, like in their face sort of Lucio disrupting hero might be more useful. Previously I would use Lucio as a support and as disruptor, an aggressive disruptor. That was my playstyle, but now it seems sort of like unnecessary. It's like you go back to your team to amp heal, but that seems like the only time it's important. Other than that, you just want to, disrupt the enemies as much as you can because it's so easy for you to. So I think Lucio is much more fun, definitely, but I don't think they did what they were trying to achieve. And what I think they were trying to achieve was to make him worse at supporting, but compensate for that somehow. So they, nerfed his range, but then increased his speed so he could get around his team. But like I said, the problem with that is that he's not going to be able to heal the majority of his team. So in that, like, if you wanted a healer, another healer, it wouldn't, like, first impressions, it would make more sense to me to just go with a different support. But if you want this like crazy disruptor who can also heal, then it makes sense to me to go with Lucio. So one of the changes that was really odd to me is that, like, if that's the goal they were trying to do with Lucio, that would make sense. But then they upped his damage per second. They increased his fire rate. And it's a noticeable change. It's like he has more DPS now. So that also promotes this, hyper aggressive style of Lucio. So that's also a bit odd to me. So I guess first impressions to like take away with this. He seems overpowered, but not in the way that I think people are thinking he might be. So I think he is overpowered, but only in the hands of the like very, very, very skilled. So any like previous aggressive Lucio players who put a lot of time into Lucio are really going to be able to take advantage of his current state. And I think like there's no like before there was a fallback. If you weren't the best at staying alive and disrupting the enemies in the enemy lines, then you could always fall back to just healing your team. But now, if you do that, you're not assisting your team whatsoever. So it'll be really interesting to see. I think most Lucios are going to not have much of an impact in the game because to do anything on Lucio, you have to be very skilled now, which is really cool, I guess, because previously any Lucio player could have an impact on the game, a positive one, just by healing your allies. But now you have to be very smart, and you have to be really good at wall riding to be able to do much as Lucio. So in conclusion, and also the wall riding is very different because you have so much momentum now. It's going to take a lot of getting used to. You can see I overshot walls a lot because it's just so different. You like before a 4-point pillar, you would be able to just ride around it really smoothly. Now it's like, oh wow, you can like jump all the way to the other face of it and all the way back around and keep doing that, and the speed stacks, and it's actually crazy how fast he can go. But it'll take a lot of getting used to, especially changes in speed. Previously it was just amp and regular, but now it's a range. So yeah, it'll take a lot of practice and a lot of skill to play Lucio now. You can't really fall back on much else. And yeah, in conclusion, I would say that Lucio is even harder than he was before because now he has to pay really close attention to his positioning, whereas previously it was your positioning based off your opponents. Now it's his positioning, or it was also your team, but you had such a big range that you were usually going to hit your team. You didn't have to worry about it too much. Now you really have to focus on every single player in the game and your positioning. If you're trying to get the maximum value out of your heal, which you should be because it heals for so much. So it kind of promotes an in and out playstyle for him, I think. What they're shooting for of, healing your allies and then speeding all the way over to your other allies and healing them, I don't think that works. I think what is probably going to be the optimal way to play him, obviously first impressions, but to me the optimal way to play him seems to be to harass the enemies, get in their line, jump all around them as fast as you can because you go so fast, and then whenever your amp is up, bring it back to your team, heal your team up really, really quick, and then get back in there and keep doing that. It seems that you don't really need the amp for speed anymore, which previously you kind of did, just for yourself, right? If you're on offense, obviously you want to use amp speed for your team. But yeah, so Lucio's entirely different. It'll be really interesting to see where he goes. It's really weird. It's definitely super weird. I think the change was unnecessary. I think it was weird. I think while Lucio could technically be argued to have been OP prior, I don't think it was unhealthy. I think it was fine. And now, I mean, they definitely they made him more difficult, or they made him less noob friendly, I guess was what they're aiming to do. That was accomplished, but yeah, in conclusion, Lucio takes a lot more skill, even more than he already did, and I think the hyper-aggressive Lucios will get the biggest buff from this, and I personally dislike the change, even though it favors me. And that's my final thoughts on it, and I'm going to end this video. Make sure to subscribe to see my more in-depth analysis on these changes, and maybe I'll find a hidden technique or something like that. And make sure to hit the like on this video. It really helps me out. Thanks so much for watching, heroes. Peace.